do you think the most important question is to ask in a conversation when you want to find the truth?
Oh, I definitely think it's why. In particular, politicians always ask the question twice.
I aspire to be this level of 50 Cent petty. Like, talk to me about what's happening there.
And the things that I've seen, I get it. Don't offend the wrong person. Yeah, that's one of the 48 laws of power. Do not offend the wrong person, because you might have an enemy for life.
So I kind of want to start with the fact that you've interviewed all of these legends for years. And I'm so curious, when you're interviewing big names, one of the most interesting parts for me listening to you is like, you don't let them go easy. Like, you got the hard questions almost always with like a lot of empathy, I think.
Nowadays.
Before
Nowadays, more empathy.
Interesting. Back in the day, you went at them?
I wasn't even thinking about it. It was just like, I didn't even look at them as humans, so to speak. I was just, I had a job to do, and I felt like I wanted to ask these questions as a curious person, right? And because, I always want to ask the questions that other people want to know about. And so it's just like, I was going to do that regardless. So I didn't even look at a person as a human. I know that sounds crazy, right? But I really didn't. It was just the subject of an interview, and I didn't think about this person is going to leave here and they might have a whole family or kids, or, they're going to be thinking about, these things later on. Like, so it's just like, I just used to ask the question.
Now, do you think you're nicer? Are you softer?
Yeah, I would hope so. I don't, nicer, softer. Like those aren't negative words, right? Like a lot of people like to act like those are negative words in this business. But some of the nicest, most softest people are known as some of the, greatest interviewers ever. Like, personally, I like, the Larry Kings of the world, right? Because they just had an intellectual curiosity. I remember one time Larry King told me, God bless the dead, Larry King said, the most important question you can ask in an interview, Charlamagne, is why? And so that's a simple question, but it does help you to dig, very deep. But then I love the interview style of people like, Barbara Walters as well. It might have came off as, intrusive and aggressive, but she knew that she had a job to do. And if that person is sitting in front of you as just a fan of culture, you have certain questions you're going to ask, but you also know that the people watching have questions they want you to ask. So I think it's a combination of both. So nice isn't a bad intention to approach, an interview with. Like, you can still be nice and still ask the hard-hitting questions.
What do you think the most important question is to ask in a conversation when you want to find the truth?
Oh, I definitely think it's why. And I definitely think when you're, interviewing people, in particular politicians, always ask the question twice. Because when you ask the question, they'll have a prepared answer for it, right? But then when you ask them again and say, but why? Now they really got an answer from the human aspect and not the politician. We sat around with our team and these are the answers we came up with to answer, this question. They really got to answer it. So I think, asking whatever the question is twice, but then when you ask it again, that's when you hit them with but why though?
Interesting. How much do you prep for an interview?
Oh, a lot.
What does that look like?
Like I said, I'm a fan of culture. And when I say culture, I don't just mean entertainment. I mean everything from sports to, politics, because politics is pop culture now, to, spiritualness, mindfulness, like all of these different things. So I'm usually already kind of well versed on whoever it is I'm sitting down talking to. But then, when you're sitting down to have an interview, you just want to see what's really going on, like in that moment, because usually, like, most people have something going on in that moment that you would want to talk about. If it's a author who has a book out, read their book. If it's a person who dropped a movie or a TV show, watch the movie, watch the TV show, just so you can be well versed on that individual. But I also like the sense of discovery that happens in interviews. So you don't want to be over prepped, right? Because sometimes you'll be talking to a person and you kind of already know where they're going with the conversation. So you might be saying things before they say it. So it's like sometimes I just like the sense of discovery of finding things out, in conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about it a lot. I mean, you have a giant audience. But I remember, like, it was just a few weeks ago when I realized, wow, one episode, if you consider shorts and YouTube too, He's going to get a couple million people to watch it.
Yeah.
And if that means there's 1 million hours spent listening to this moment, it's kind of fucking scary.
I love
I
it.
better value it.
Yes.
What if we waste their time? What if we give them a bunch of bullshit?
But that's the thing. What you just said, Codie, is absolutely true. But I look at it also from another angle of, and I know this is going to sound dark, but what about when these people die? Like literally, like over the last 15 years, I've had conversations with a lot of people who are no longer here. So when I sit down with people, that's what I think about. What if this is this person's last conversation ever? You know, or what if it's my last conversation ever? Like, but usually when you're talking to these people, yes, you know what I'm saying? But usually when you're talking to these individuals, these are moments in time that when, you know, this person gets older, they might use for documentaries, or when this person passes away, they might use for documentaries. These are things that that other interviewers are going to reference when they sit down, you know, to have conversations with these individuals. Like, yo, I saw you on, you know, Codie Sanchez show. I saw you on Breakfast Club with Charlamagne, and you said this. Like, so that's another way that I approach those conversations as well.
That's interesting. You seem pretty obsessed with what you do. Are you?
I think you got to be.
Yeah.
I think you got to be obsessed with, you know, whatever it is that you do to actually have success. Like, you know, if you're not obsessed about something, like, you know, if you're not obsessed about, you know, being on these microphones, or if LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, you know, God bless the day, Kobe, if they're not obsessed with what they do on the basketball court, if you're a public servant, if you're not obsessed, you know, with, you know, doing the bidding of the people in the streets, right? Like, if you're not obsessed with what it is that you do, then why are you doing it? Like that's why they call it a passion, like that thing that you would do for free. Yes, I'm obsessed with communicating on these microphones, 100%, because I look at myself, you know, like a public servant. And because I know that, you know, I am serving the needs of the public every day, whether it's through making them laugh, whether it's through informing them, you know, whether it's through, you know, having somebody on that's going to say something beneficial to them, that's going to get them, you know, on a path of righteousness with spirituality, or, you know, decide to start going to therapy because, you know, we having conversations about mental health. Whatever it is, you got to be obsessed with what it is that you do.
How did you figure out what you were obsessed with, or how did you find this path? I think so many people, and a lot of people listening, they say that, like, I don't know what I'm passionate about, or yeah, maybe I want to have a podcast, or is that just mimetic desire? Like, how does somebody who's totally lost and not sure what they're obsessed in, is there a trick to find what you could become obsessed with?
Man, that is an amazing question. It's a layered question because I can only speak for me, right? When I started off, I was born in 1978. Right. So I started doing radio back in 1998. Right. I started off as an intern in Charleston, South Carolina at Z93 Jams in 1998. And the reason I even, you know, got there is because I was just trying to find something positive to do because of the way I was living in the street. And it's so funny that all of the things I would get in trouble for in school, being disruptive, you know, talking too much, being the class clown, all of those things were actual qualities that when I got on the microphone helped me, right? So when I started off doing radio, I started off as an intern in 1998. I didn't get on the air until like 1999. I always got to salute my guy, Ron White. He texted me today and said, I think this is one of those times where you're ignoring me. Or you set a boundary with me. And he's right. But salute to my guy, Ron. But he's the first person to ever put me on air, right? Because I was an intern and I worked in the promotions department, so I would drive the van and, you know, put posters up and all of that stuff when the actual talent was on, you know, doing their remotes. But then Ron was like, yo, have you ever thought about being on the air, right? And I'm like, no, but what's up? And so they started putting me on the air, and it was literally one of those things that I just knew this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I remember the moment I was in the radio station doing overnights. Overnights is, you know, midnight to 6 a.m, where it just hit me like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I don't just want to be a local radio personality, you know, doing the time and temperature, you know, in a city. I want to be a super jock. You know, the super jocks back then were the Tom Joyners, you know, and the Doug Banks, you know, God bless the dead. Salute to my guy, Russ Parr, you know what I mean? Howard Stern, Angie Martinez, Wendy Williams. Those are the people you thought about when you thought about like the super jocks. And that's what I wanted to be. And I knew that I wanted to be that since 1999.
Wow. And
and I want to add one more thing.
Get in there.
In my first book, Black Privilege, Opportunity Comes to Those Who Create It, New York Times bestseller.
Great book. I read it.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I have a chapter called Fuck Your Dreams. And the reason I say fuck your dreams is the name of the chapter, but the actual ideology is fuck your dreams if it's not your dream. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we see things working for other people and we say to ourselves, you know what, this is what I should be doing. But that's not what God has planned for you. Mm-hmm. Like God has something destined for you to unlock your greatness, but you got to figure out what that is. Like it's not just because you see everybody with a podcast don't mean that you should have a podcast. Just because you see these people on radio having success doesn't mean that you should, run to be a radio personality. Like, you should, even if you feel called to those spaces, number one, ask yourself why, right? What is your actual intention? If it's I want to make money and I want to be famous, that's not a real intention. What is your actual why to wanting to be in these spaces? And if you do feel called to be in these spaces, explore every aspect of the space. Like right now, we're recording this podcast in this studio. Somebody had to set up these cameras. Somebody had to set up these microphones, right? There's producers that are listening to us talk right now. There's all type of ways to be in this space, be in this business, and not be doing what you and I are doing right now. So that's what I would tell folks. If you do feel called to certain spaces in certain areas, doesn't mean that you're supposed to be Cody. Doesn't mean that you're supposed to be Charlamagne. Figure out what that means and why you're being called.
You talked about wanting to be a super jock, and let's just call that like one of the greatest of your profession. Mm-hmm. What do you think it takes to be the greatest in any profession? Like these days, there's a lot of people that'll say work-life balance matters a lot. Can you have work-life balance on your way up to greatness?
Yes. I might have answered that different some years ago. But yes, you can have work-life balance. I would actually tell people that, in this profession, work-life balance is actually what's probably going to make you have more success. Because for what we do, on these microphones, being able to communicate life in a way that connects with people is what kind of makes people gravitate towards us. So you got to live life in order to be able to do that, right? So when I'm, I just came back from Cape Town, South Africa, and I was there throughout the whole holidays, and it's just interesting to watch people from other countries and how they gravitate towards, somebody from another country just because they've been listening to them, for so long. And one of the things that a lot of the people kept coming up to me saying was, "Thank you for embracing our continent the way that you do. Thank you for having, they were naming different, African talent that has been on the show, whether it's, people like DeVito or Burna Boy or, me being friends with my homegirl DJ Cuppy or Bo Nong. Like they were, my man Casper, I'm gonna mispronounce his last name, so I'm just gonna say Casper. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But they were coming up to me because of the way that I connect with them and how I'm able to communicate my experience as a Black American, appreciating what it is that they do and bringing them on my platform and having a conversation. So it's just, I think that, you got work-life balance matter. Like I'm able to go to South Africa and like experience that place for myself. And then now come back to America and talk to my listeners who may never have been to South Africa. I've had the pleasure of being, going to Johannesburg and Cape Town. And that might make more people want to go to Cape Town and Johannesburg just listening to me communicate my experiences there. So yeah, I think you gotta have work-life balance because you have to live life, right? And not even just in this profession, just in general. Like, do yourself a favor and go live some life. You got 168 hours in a week. You know how much time that is? Like 168 hours. You should have more than enough time to do what it is you got to do as far as your living in your career is concerned, but also go out there and just have some time for yourself and your family.
You know what I think we should talk about that we talked about before? We were talking about time. And I said a line like, we ought to be done at this time. I worry about not respecting people in time. I'm married to a military man, so he really associates lateness or extension with disrespect, which is kind of like a military mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I'm going to make sure we're out on time. And you had like a really interesting take on a book you had read in two different types of time.
Yeah, it's this book that I love to read. It's called The Big Leap. Like I read it, often. But it's written by Gay Hendricks, and he talks about Newtonian time and Einstein time. And Einstein time, if I'm saying it correctly, Einstein time is basically us realizing that we create time. Now, I do agree you should respect, people's time. But when we say things like, oh, I don't have the time for that. Yes, you do. You just don't want to do it. And you're using time as the scapegoat. And the example he uses is like your kid might walk in and your kid might ask you to play. And you'd be like, oh, I don't have time for that right now. But if your kid walked in and your kid was, cut and bleeding, you would stop everything and you would have the time to do whatever it is to make your child stop bleeding and stop feeling that pain. And so it's just the way we look at, what time is. Instead of treating time like it's something that's out of our control, or we're a victim to it. No, you have all the time that you create.
So do you not say the words, I don't have time? Do you replace it with something?
That's why I constantly read books, the same book over and over, right? When I'm really into a book, I read it over and over because you want to constantly try to practice these things that you are learning in that book. But yeah, there's no such thing as not having time. The other saying that we always say is you make time for what you want to make time for. So instead of saying, I don't have time, I don't want to right now. Like, it's like somebody comes to me right now and is like, hey, man, I would really love if you would be at such and such, blah, blah, blah. Let me talk to my assistant so I can check my schedule and see if I can squeeze it. You don't really want to do it. Because things that you actually want to do, oh my God, I'm there. Like, yo, let's figure it out. Like, then that's when you hit your team and like, yo, this person wants me to do X, Y, and Z, be X, Y, and Z. Let's figure it out. And I think that's actually what it is. Instead of saying I don't have time, to be like, I don't want to. That's this year right here is all about the no.
Wow.
Like that's really a boundary that I think that we are just afraid to set a lot. Like we're afraid to tell people no because all of us are people pleasers, in different ways. And we all want that validation from other humans. And we hate telling other humans no because we feel like if we tell them no, then they're not going to look at us the same or they're not going to respect us the same, or they're not going to, speak of us in a positive way. There's nothing wrong with telling somebody, no, I don't want to right now.
Well, it's good that you say that because I think, if I was to just watch you on the internet, I might not think Charlamagne the people pleaser. That's probably not like one of the things I would label you, know? And so I think people would say, no, he probably sets pretty firm boundaries. I bet he's really good at that. But is that even something that you've struggled with? Saying,
oh, absolutely. I've been a people pleaser for a long time. And I mean, people pleasing doesn't always look like just allowing people to do whatever it is they want, you to do. Sometimes people pleasing looks like being overly aggressive in an interview. You know what I'm saying? Bombarding somebody with questions because you're worried about what the people watching are going to say about you. If you got a reputation, right, as this hard-hitting question asker, then you feel like you got to ask the hard-hitting questions. That's people pleasing. If you're doing it because you're worried about how other people are going to take it, how other people are going to consider it, how other people are going to view it, that is people pleasing.
It's interesting because you've been at this game a long time and you've had, I don't know, people hating on you for things. You've had people loving on you for things. You've had some of the same people who used to love you, hate you for things multiple times,
That's right.
And so I'm curious to you, like, what do you do to stop caring about the haters? Like, what do you do when you're getting backlash? Everybody seems to be talking shit. Nobody likes you. How do you deal with that?
You just genuinely got to not give a fuck. And I have two people in my life that gave me great pieces of advice that I always reference, even if, at times I didn't always feel what they were saying. Like I didn't apply it, right? My man Cadillac Jack, who along with my guy G-Spin put together the Breakfast Club. Cadillac Jack told me early on in the Breakfast Club, I need you to remember the rule of 10. What's the rule of 10? The rule of 10 is 3 people gonna like you, 3 people not gonna like you. 4 people don't even know what the fuck's going on. And that is very true in life. Like, that is just the absolute truth. Like, we are so concerned about what everybody thinks, and we think everybody is paying attention to us. 4 people don't even know what the hell is going on. And then the 3 people that like you, they gonna like you no matter what. The 3 people that don't like you, they not gonna like you no matter what. But guess what? The algorithm don't know the difference. So when the 3 people that like you are talking about you, great. When the 3 people that don't like you are talking about you, great. Your name is just all throughout the algorithm. My daddy used to always say to me, you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. That one, I've always understood. I've always been like right in the middle with that. And I mean, that's really just life, right? Like, you have to be a very egotistical, narcissistic person to think that everybody likes you and to think that everybody's thinking about you, right? Like, there is nobody on this planet, forget humans, there is nothing on this planet that everybody universally loves, not even God. Like, no, I want you to just think about that for a second. There is nothing, not even puppies, not ice cream, some of the purest things that you can think about. There is nothing on this planet that everybody universally loves. So for me, hey man, I'm just happy I make you feel something. I really genuinely feel that. I'm just happy I make you feel something, because I would rather be, thought of in some way than to not be thought about at all.
This is a secret nobody shares. I've done thousands of deals, but until now, I've never shared the most valuable 10% publicly because I want to buy these businesses myself. Then I realized that if you guys buy the businesses, I get to do the deals with you. So this year at Main Street Millionaire Live, it is your chance to see our insider strategies. I'll teach you how we find, buy, and scale a business step by step with the frameworks that I literally use to buy all these businesses. So if you want to go from an aspiring owner to someone actually running a profitable business, join me. I'll give you my blueprint, and maybe we end up doing deals together.
You had this conversation with 50 Cent before he put out the documentary, and you had you basically were prescient about what was happening in the world. And now, I mean, it's not really therapy for 50, but watching him hold this level of revenge am I a sick person that I watch it and the memes that are I aspire to have this level of revenge that 50 Cent has.
Yeah.
I mean,
50 is a Cancer. I'm a Cancer. So I understand 50's level of petty.
You do?
I completely understand 50's level of petty. Plus, I'm privy to a lot of the whole backstory between him and somebody like Diddy. So I get it. People and it's funny. 50 is such an interesting person to me, and I've been having these conversations about 50 for years. I remember it started with, a long time ago, a couple of executives in the business was talking to me about 50, and they was like, why does he always got to go after Irv and Ja? Why can't he just finally, God bless the dead, why can't he just let it go? I'm like, he got shot 9 times. They've had fist fights. He got stabbed by them. You wouldn't really let that go either. That's not something you could just, I don't even think a therapist could tell you just to let that go. And they were like, you know what? You're right. You know what I'm saying? So there's always, and I remember 50 said this one time. 50 was like, people always see when I punch, but they don't see when the person swung at me first.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying everything, he does is justified, because I really don't know. But from the things that I've seen, I get it. I completely, understand it. And that's why you got to just be, don't offend the wrong person.
True.
Yeah, that's one of the 4-day laws of power. Do not offend the wrong person, because you might have an enemy for life.
Dude, I would never want to 50, just cut the podcast, edit it out.
And honestly, man, sometimes that is therapeutic within itself. Just saying fuck a person. I don't fuck with you. Who says we have to fuck with people?
Yeah, I know.
Who says that? We talk about that statement, money is the root of all evil. Who told us that we gotta forgive everybody? Who told us that, we gotta love everybody? Like, who said that? Like, nah, sometimes it's fuck this person, and it's fuck this person for life, and I don't fuck with them. And people be like, man, you exhausting too much energy on that individual. Says who? Yeah, right. And what if I want to exhaust this energy on this individual? Like, what if I want, to do exactly what it is that I'm doing, and it makes me happy to do it? Who am I to tell that person that they're wrong? And by the way, whatever energy comes back to you from doing that, he got to deal with that. And I think he's fully aware.
Yeah.
I think he's fully aware of it, and it does not bother him in any way, shape, or form. And there's a certain level of freedom that I admire. It is.
That smile when he does.
It's a certain, and by the way, I've had these conversations with him, like,
have you?
On air, off air, because I've been there. He's one of the most interesting, people to me, just because he's a Cancer, and there's a lot of things that I relate to. And
he seems like a smart motherfucker.
Oh, he's brilliant.
Like,
you don't come out of South Side Jamaica, Queens, and achieve the things that he's achieved. Achieved things, lost things, got him back triple, not even having success in multiple industries. That's what he don't get enough credit for. Yeah, he did his thing in music, but he went from an artist, started his own label, had successful artists under his label. Like, I'm glad we're having this conversation as well. But he's another person that I really look at, as a blueprint, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I remember, he says things that I remember. He said, I'm a general with G Unit, but I'm a soldier when I'm with Eminem and Dr. Dre. That right there is a jewel, because I hate when people say things like, yeah, but you work for a corporation, and I also own a lot of things on my as well. So what's the problem? Like, you can do both. And to watch him go from a talent, right, to starting his own record label, to having 4 or 5 successful artists, then having success with clothing, having success with a sneaker, then now in television and film. Do you know how hard that is?
Cannot imagine.
This guy has multiple franchises of various TV shows.
Yeah. And he lost it. That's the part that I think, like, coming back, like the mental fortitude to lose it, to be in bankruptcy, like you can make it. You can make it.
Absolutely.
But to lose it and get it back.
And to get it back.
Oof.
Yeah. And to and to remain himself throughout it all.
Yeah.
I actually think sometimes he does that just to remind himself, I'm still me. Let me jump. I be feeling that sometimes, like, let me find somebody to really go at it with right now, just to remind myself I'm still me. Like, I don't know. I got a lot of respect and
I'm gonna clip this out. And every time somebody talks shit, I'm gonna re-listen to you, and I'm gonna remember this.
But listen, don't listen to me though, because I'm a Cancer and I'm still dealing with my own stuff too. So but
I can't hold revenge. Like, I think it's a little healthy to be able to keep like a little bit of that edge.
Yeah, and I like
let it go.
And I like anti-heroes.
Oh yeah,
that's my thing too. I like anti.
Do you have one? Do you have like a Diddy? Like 50 has one? Do you have one that you're like, yeah, fuck that guy right now. I won't say his name, but Dan.
Yeah, but I already won.
Oh shoot! You need a new
several.
one.
I done won several. I've had a few, but I've won. So it's like it's not the same. You know what I mean? There's nobody I really want to like stomp on them while they. I don't. And probably, you know what? Probably I've never had one to that level. I probably never had one to that level. I've never had nobody try to like physically. Like, well, I'm lying. I have had people send people to physically harm me, but it's not like a punch in the face. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like a shooting or a stabbing or anything like that. So, yeah. But when I say I like anti-heroes, I like the Batmans of the world. I like the, Tony Starks, the Deadpools, the Wolverines. You know what I mean? I like those type of anti-heroes. I'm the guy that, I root for the villain in movies sometimes, and to me, like, 50 is the ultimate hip hop anti-hero.
What about you? You've been doing Breakfast Club for many years now.
15.
You've been online for, how long have you been online before Breakfast? Now we're going to tell everybody how old you are, basically.
No, let me see. I mean, there's 2 different types. I'm old enough to remember that there's 2 different types of online. right?
The first time.
Because there was the MySpaces.
Oh, fuck. I remember that.
You know what I'm saying?
Like the square of people. And
That's
you got
right.
upset.
So there was the MySpaces. There was the Black Planets, but those weren't necessarily social media. Like you might be in a forum or a chat room, I forgot what they used to call them, chat rooms or something back then. But yeah, I remember Twitter. I remember when I got on Twitter so early, I didn't even know that people replied to you. I remember when somebody said, you got to check your apps. I think it might have been Little Duval or somebody I was talking to. And I'm like, I don't really like Twitter, man. You just be on there, like you just be on there talking to yourself. And he was like, what do you mean you be on there talking to yourself? I'm like, I post stuff, but it's just there. And he was like, man, you got to check your ads. I'm like, the ads? And then that's when you clicked on your ads and you started seeing everybody atting you. And you're like, oh,
But you're
okay.
like, I wish I never knew that existed. That's
Yeah.
how I feel about it some days.
I stopped going on Twitter in like 2018, 2019. But we got on, I think I got on Twitter in like 07, 08 maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, that place is a little wild.
Oh, it's not good for my mental health in no way, shape, or form. Yeah. But you got to know that though. We're all in verbally abusive relationships with our smartphones. Why would you go to a place where somebody's constantly telling you that you ain't shit? If you were married to a person like that, you wouldn't stick around in that relationship. If you were at a job and you had a boss talking to you like that, I don't think you would stick around in that relationship. So why do we do that with social media? Like, you know, and I'm not, forget just the block features and the unfollowing folks. I'd rather not even go over there. Like, you know, I'm a stern believer in if somebody be like, hey man, why don't you come over to the house? Or, you know, we having this party or we having a cookout. Who all over there? If they say the wrong people and the wrong energy, you not going. So why do we take our monkey asses over to social media, especially Twitter? Like, I have no place, I have no desire to be over there.
That's really smart. A little social cleanse.
I have not been on this since 2018.
What about, like, you've probably changed a lot since 2018. Like, I imagine 15 years online. Are there some things that you have said before, like back in the day, you're like, this is true, I believe it with all of my being, and now, fuck, I was wrong.
I remember talking to Malcolm Gladwell one time, and Malcolm Gladwell said to me, you know, there's a lot of things that I wrote in books like The Outliers that I don't necessarily believe anymore.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh my God, like that kind of threw me for a loop. But then I had to think to myself, like, just because he wrote it in that book and he has maybe evolved and, you know, learned a lot more information and it's taken him someplace else, doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going to pick up that book right now and it's going to meet them where they are.
Do you think about your books that way? Like, when I was going back through and I hadn't read one, I didn't realize you had multiple books. Mm-hmm. And so when when I went back and I was reading, so I had read Black Privilege. And then when I went through and I was looking at Get Honest or Die Lying.
Yep, that's my last one, my third one. Yep.
I didn't realize that you had such a focus on mental health. And I don't know why. I guess I had seen Breakfast Club and I'd thought of your persona a lot there. But I like asking you these questions because when I think about the person who's listening here, I'm always thinking about them, maybe a little less than the guest. Like, what does Charlamagne have that I feel like every human listening is just gonna it's gonna blow their mind this week and it's gonna help their life somehow. And that's kind of how I think about you. It's like you have this amazing career, but it's mostly like, what do you got that they need? You know? And when I think about your career in particular, there's a couple ways I want to go with it that I think could be really helpful with people. One, conversations, we're having less of them. You have them deeply. And even with people you don't, well, I don't know if you don't like them or not, but maybe you don't agree with everything. Maybe you sometimes don't like them. And I guess one of the questions I have for you is like, what do you do when you have a conversation with somebody you don't like or agree with?
You just agree to disagree. Like, I don't think, I don't know if there's too many people I've had conversations with who I don't like because I don't know them personally not to like them. Yeah, I may not like their ideologies. I may not like, you know, some of their worldviews, but I don't know them personally to not like them. And I mean, that's what conversation is for. And just because you have a conversation with a person doesn't mean you're going to end up liking them at the end of the conversation. But I feel like as human beings, we should, you know, respect each other enough to discuss. And even if we discuss and debate and, you know, argue and, you know, we might even get to yelling in an interview. But I think that's just what happens when you are having a real, healthy, honest conversation with somebody. So I don't I think this is our job. Like, I'm a radio personality. I'm a podcast person. I'm a media personality, right? Just like you're a media personality. If I choose to invite you into my space and have a conversation with you, it is ridiculous to just then say, you know what, I'm going to slam dunk on this person. I'm inviting this person in my space just to slam dunk on them. If you get dunked on in the midst of the conversation, that's different. But I invited you for a conversation. So have the conversation and see where it goes.
Do you get a lot of comments online like, why are you having this person on?
All the time.
All the time. What do you say to the people who won't have a conversation with somebody? Like, what if somebody's listening right now, and this happens around the holidays, probably good timing for it. They're like, I'm not fucking going home because Aunt Becky loves insert one political party, and I don't want to talk to them.
I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And the reason I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world, because, politics are very fleeting, right? In the next few years, hopefully, right, if we still have free and fair elections, they'll be electing, somebody else, and there'll be a lot of damage done because of the current administration, but the way people felt will kind of be a thing of the past, right? Maybe. Maya Angelou said that, people will forget what you did, they'll forget what you said, they'll never forget how you made them feel. So maybe people will forget about it. But man, I've been alive long enough to have seen how this goes, before. And I mean, that's your family member. Don't blame who's in the White House on you not wanting to talk to your family member. You never liked this person to begin with. Like, cut it out. Like, because if you could just cut me off or cut somebody off based on who they voted for, you never really liked that person. This goes back to what we were saying about time. Don't blame time for you not wanting to do something. You don't like this individual. You never really did, and now you feel like you got a valid excuse to not talk to that person anymore. And I feel like, when it comes to just us as media personalities, listen, I've seen media personalities, say, I don't know why, Charlamagne talks to these kind of people, or why the Breakfast Club talks to these kind of people. They don't say that to anybody else but us. Like, they don't say that to Jake Tapper. Right? Historically, they didn't say that to people like, Diane Sawyer, Barbara Walters, Oprah Winfrey. I grew up in the era of watching Donahue have the Grand Wizard of the KKK on. Yeah. Right? And I grew up in the era of, Donahue would host, not just Donahue, everybody would talk to people that they didn't necessarily agree with. Right? Nobody said anything back then. So why is it such a thing now? And I would tell all of these media personalities, when you say things like, man, I would have never done that. That's why you're not me. That's just the reality of the situation. That's why you're not me. So don't ask yourself why you don't get the things that I get, per se. Yeah. Because you don't do the things that I do. I have no problem sitting down having conversations with people that I may not agree with. But that's just because of the great personalities that I saw before me. They were doing the same thing. They used to do specials where they would go talk to Charles Manson while he was in prison. They talked to Jeffrey Dahmer. He ate people. Like, and you're not going to talk to somebody just because they got a different
Republican.
A Republican? That's crazy. That's crazy to me. I'm also old enough to remember when people hated guys like George W. Bush. Now everybody loves George, but they love watching George Bush with Michelle Obama, and it's so cute, such a great relationship. I remember when y'all were calling George Bush the Antichrist.
That's true. Well, or if you go back to history, Democrats were actually Republicans. Republicans were actually Democrats. Like the whole party, they've changed back and forth.
They had different ideologies at the time, though. So
totally.
Yeah.
But it's kind of wild to see, what used to be a Democrat today was a Republican at one point, and vice versa. It's like we put these hard lines on it. But it's a really interesting point because you're right. I actually went to journalism school. I always wanted to be a journalist. I ended up in business and finance for all these other reasons. I guess we've come back. But I used to love Walter Cronkite for that reason.
Yeah. There was a time where you would want to get that interview. Like, we saw freaking Barbara Walters went and spoke to Fidel Castro. Like, those were the type of things that we constantly saw the greats do. So who are we to be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Nah, that's so if not you, who? And why not talk to that person and ask that person the questions that, you know, the world may want to know?
I want to talk a little bit about like the business side for a second. One, congratulations. Amazing news recently on a huge deal you did. It's so cool.
Thank you. Re-signed with iHeartMedia.
Yeah. And I think like, not even to get into details on that, but like, it's really cool to see somebody do an incredible deal and do a re-signing and have it go really public and have it be in this new age of media, you know, which is, I think typically deals like that, you had to be with CNN or CNBC or some huge network. And now this is kind of you know, this is, you could move Breakfast Club, Charlamagne, anywhere, and you're the network now. So it's really cool to see. Congratulations.
Yeah, and I mean, even salute to iHeart. You know, I've been with iHeart for 15 years. You know, started off as a talent, you know, then became a partner when I created the Black Effect Podcast Network, which is, you know, by far the largest podcast network, you know, for Black podcasts. I think right now we got like 50 to 60 podcasts but, you know, we wanted to create a space that was specifically for Black podcasters because that didn't exist. Like, you know, I'm the type of person, I like to look around the marketplace and, you know, see what's missing from the marketplace. And that was something that was missing to me. Yeah. I loved what Bill Simmons was doing with The Ringer. You know, I loved, you know, watching what they were doing with Smartless. I loved watching what they were doing with Gimlet. But I saw a lot of these Black creators who were doing two things, right? They were putting their podcast out, but it was like video first. So their videos were getting like tremendous views, but the audio wasn't necessarily reflecting that.
Yeah, that's hard to
We all know that the money is in the audio.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, you know, what if we created this network, you know, got these individuals who already have these, you know, podcasts, put us, you know, all under one umbrella and use iHeart sales team to really, really pump their audio, because iHeart is the biggest, you know, conglomerate when it comes to audio. Nobody does audio better than iHeart. I'm not saying that because I work with them. I'm saying that because it's the truth, right? So radio, podcasting, nobody does audio better than iHeart. And man, if I could show y'all the data of some of these podcasts who had these big video numbers, but the audio numbers weren't necessarily matching the video, and how when they partnered with Black Effect and iHeart, how we were able to get those audio numbers booming to the point where we're at like 11 million, 12 million audio downloads a month. Wow. And that makes, you know, Black Effect, you know, one of the biggest podcast networks out there. Like, that's very rare air to be, you know, have a network getting 11 million, 12 million audio downloads a month. And, you know, things like that is what makes you a lot more valuable to, you know, whatever company you're with.
What's interesting, I kind of want to talk about that for a second. I don't know about you, but I had a long period, and I'm thinking through it right now, but where I'm Latina and a chick, and it always bothered me when somebody would reach out to me and say like, hey, we want to talk to you. You're a female CEO. We'd love to have a female CEO come speak about XYZ. Or like, you're a Latina CEO. Come speak. And I kind of would be like, one, if it was female CEO, I'd be like, I don't know what my vagina has to do with it. Like, I'm just in charge of this business, and I happen to have that anatomy, you know? And I remember I did write that in one email, and then one of my execs was like, maybe we could not do that. But I kind of like took it personal. I had a little chip on my shoulder. Maybe I have less of one now, but I'm curious for you, like, when people say like, Charlamagne, Black CEO, come speak. Like, are you like, yeah, fuck yeah, because I represent all these people? Or are you like, who cares? I'm a CEO. I just happen to be Black. Like, how do you think about that?
That's a great question. I don't, when I pull up the Chick-fil-A, it don't bother me that, you know, they specialize in chicken sandwiches. I'm pulling up to Chick-fil-A because they specialize in chicken sandwiches, you know? Or if I want to go to, you know, pizza, if I want pizza that night, I'm not going to go to a burger spot. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, for me, it don't bother me, because we are unicorns, because we can't sit here and act like we don't understand the country that we live in. We live in the country called America. America is, you know, a country that was founded on white supremacy. Like, you know, just call it what it is, right? So like, that is what people think of when they think of America. That's what they've always presented to us, right? Like a white man. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a problem being a quote unquote unicorn in this space. If you are a, you know, woman CEO who's done great things, hey, sadly, we live in a country that doesn't think women can do amazing things. Like, this is a country that, just gave women the right to vote in our lifetime, right? So you know how they kind of already perceive women. So when they look at you as a woman CEO, they're looking at you like, damn, I can't believe she did all. I can't believe she got that done. Why? Because you're a woman. Same thing with a black person. Why? I can't believe that a black person could achieve those kind of things because of all of the things that this country has thrown at us historically. So things like that do not bother me. If you want me to come out here and be the bearded woman at the circus, or like, I don't have no problem with that. Because I feel like, by the time I sit down with you and have a conversation, you're going to say to yourself, I understand why that person is in the position that they're in.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think culture and race I don't think about it as much now because I'm like a little bit of a spreadsheet nerd. But, as I've gotten on the internet more, and then people, of course, they notice you. They're like, yeah, he's black. And yeah, she's a chick. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess that's part of the equation.
Yeah,
whatever.
thank you for stating the obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, all right. But then I realized, man, actually, there was a bunch of stuff when I was growing up that we didn't actually do that I think hurt us monetarily and and by us, I guess I mean women or Latinos in this instance. Like when I was growing up, you know how they say you don't talk about sex, religion, politics?
Politics, yeah.
For Latinos, religion's cool. Jesus is all around. Like everybody can talk about Jesus. But you don't talk about sex. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about money. Like money's like nobody talks about that as a Latino. And I think for that reason, it was harder for me to make money, like growing up, like because I was like, no, we don't talk about it. It's not good. It's private. Rich people kind of suck because you had to be bad to get it. And so I had all these ingrained narratives. And I'm curious, and like in black culture, is it similar at all? Can you talk about money in the same way? Are there like things that hold black people back monetarily that you're like, why the fuck do we do that and don't do that anymore?
That's a great question. I don't like to answer questions on behalf of the whole black race because black people are not, monolithic. Yep. And, there's a lot of black people who don't like me. So I don't want them to think that I'm speaking. Nope. I'm speaking for them. But from my perspective, yeah, a lot of conversations like financial literacy did not happen, in the black community. Like at least in my community. I don't want to say in the black community, at least in my circumference. Like, my father was definitely an entrepreneur, right? Like my father, he owned a fish market when I was young. So I would be there hanging out, working. My father also did construction. So he was an entrepreneur, even though he did work for a construction company for a period of time. But for the most part, all the money he made was, doing things independently. So that was always kind of my mindset. But nobody taught me about, taxes and, high yield savings accounts and stocks. Like I didn't learn about any of that stuff till I got in my late 30s, early 40s. I think the not talking about money thing is interesting though, because of course none of us wanted to be broke, right? That's what led, guys like me to start selling dope, right? Because, you don't want to be broke, but money was never my motivation, ever. A lot of the times, even when I started, selling dope, I was just doing that because the people around me were doing it. And, you would get clowned for being broke, but I never needed money to really get anything that y'all got. Like a lot of times these guys are, trying to get money to impress women and things like that. I wasn't the best looking, but I could hold a really good conversation. I could make you laugh. Like there,
check.
You know what I mean? There was a lot. The girls that y'all was, trying to get, I was getting just being my natural broke self, right? So it's like money was never my motivation. What was my motivation was wanting to realize my full potential as a person on this planet.
Even
like,
when you were younger, you were
even when
never
I was
scared
younger,
about being broke or not having money? That wasn't part of your equation. Were you religious when you were young?
Yeah, I grew up, my mother was a Jehovah's Witness. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness. My grandmother was a Baptist. My father was a Jehovah's Witness too till he got this fellowship. And then, he started studying Islam. So I was getting hit from all different angles. I had my grandmother who was a Baptist. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness. So, my father who was studying Islam. So I was reading Watchtowers, Awakes, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Like I had it all. But there was different things that motivated me to want to be successful. Like when I heard Biggie Smalls say, being broke at 30 give a brother the chills. Like, right? Or when TLC made No Scrubs. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy sitting in his best friend's ride, you know, on the passenger side, trying to holler at me. All of the, or when Outkast and Goody Mob made, I want to get up. You need to get up, get out and get something. Don't let the days of your life pass by. You need to get up, get out and get something. You know, don't spend all your days getting high because, you know, you and I got to do for you and I. When you hear that, that's not necessarily about money. That's just about, brother, you know, get up and do something with your life, figure it out. And even back then, man, I had no problem. I thought about going in the military. You know, there was a time I wanted to work at UPS because, you know, I had an uncle who worked at UPS. Like, and same thing with the military. I had my mother's first cousin, his name was Bruce. He was in the military. So I was just looking at all of these different things that could potentially get me off this dirt road in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. It wasn't necessarily always entertainment. Like, I had no problem living what people call the so-called American dream. Like, you just figure out something, you know, that can make you some money to be able to afford a nice place to stay, have some food on the table. And if you want to have a family one day, you can do that. But, you know, it wasn't necessarily, I want to be rich. I want to be famous. I want to be this, you know, multi-millionaire. You know, it wasn't necessarily that. Like, I just wanted to not waste the life that God gave me on this planet.
Yeah, it's true. You have talked a lot about God on your podcast, in your books, here. What is your relationship with God? And like, how do you use that in your day-to-day?
Man, I'm only sitting here because of God. You know, whatever you want to call him, Jehovah, you know, Allah, you know, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm literally in this position that I'm in right now because from the time that I can remember, from day one, there was a higher power, you know, guiding me. I know we talk about having like praying grandmothers and, you know, praying mothers. I really, really had that. Like, I was a kid going to field service every Saturday morning, right? So, you know, as long as I can remember, I've been a praying person, and not just, you know, praying and asking God for guidance and direction, and like literally feeling that presence of a higher power with me, that higher power literally guiding me and directing me and telling me to go do X, Y, and Z, go do this, go do that, like literally. And, you know, it was the times where I didn't listen to that voice the way I should have, you know, that caused, you know, so-called negative things to happen to me. And the reason I say so-called negative things is because I feel like everything is just a part of this process called life, right? The so-called good, the so-called bad, everything that happens to you while we're living this thing called life is just part of the process that led you and I to both be sitting here, you know, in this moment. But I just feel like the whole way through, it's just been God. And I mean, I remember last year, I said to God, I was praying, meditating, and I said to God, God, I am ready for every single thing you have planned for me on this planet. I said, I want it all. And I know people might hear that and they might think, you know, monetary things are just the good things that come with success. No, I want to experience every single thing that God wants me to experience on this planet. Because I truly believe that. I truly believe that, you know, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So I don't care what it is. I take good news, so-called good news, the same way I take so-called bad news. Because it's just like, all right, well, what God got planned for me next? Like, you know, even today, you might get some news from a business perspective and you like, I didn't want that to happen, but God clearly has something else planned. So I'm open for it.
So interesting. I have this line. I guess I was raised similar to, I was raised with a lot of religious influence. It didn't permeate, or it did negatively at some point, and I felt like I had to break that. I became sort of an agnostic, atheist. Then I came back to faith. But there's a line that I always think of by this. She was actually a feminist back in the day, Emma Bombeck, and she has this line that I love, which is, she says, "When I stand before God at the end of my days, I hope to be able to say, I have not one drop left. I used every single thing that you gave me."
Yes.
And it every time I'm struggling, I think about that.
Yes.
And I was wondering for you, you're such a man of you read, multiple books a week and many a month, and you're such a man, like you remember all these quotes. Are there quotes that you live by that you like when your faith is struggling that you repeat in your head?
Yeah, I got two, and these are ones that I actually made up. I deal with really bad panic attacks, right? Like I've got a handle on them, in my more recent years. But like when I was young, I used to deal with like these really severe panic attacks, and when I didn't know what they were, when I didn't know that I was having actual panic attacks, I would always repeat this mantra. I would say, I love Jehovah God and his son, Jesus Christ. I love Jehovah God and his son, Jesus Christ. I love Jehovah God and his son, Jesus Christ. Fuck Satan, fuck Satan, fuck Satan. So I would say, I love Jehovah God and his son, Jesus Christ 3 times, and I would say, fuck Satan 3 times. And the reason I would do that is because, when you read in the Bible, in the book of Job, Job's wife kept telling Job, hey, curse God and die, right? Why don't you just curse God and die? So I used to always be like, why would I curse God? Like I'm not gonna ever curse God and die. So let me just curse Satan, because I feel like this what I now know to be anxiety, this panic attack, is him. So I would say, I love Jehovah God and his son Jesus Christ. Fuck Satan. And I can't even front. It would bring me back to center in a real way. I mean, now when I've done a lot more work on myself, so I do meditation and things like that. So I understand mantras, right? Like you understand the mantra when you're counting your beads, when you're meditating. You understand how that can bring you back to center. I was doing that back then and didn't even know it. And my other motto that I always say, yo, keep God first, stay humble, keep working. Anything that happens in my life, I say, keep God first, stay humble, keep working. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because, one thing I've realized over the last few weeks, because, we're taping this like the first week of January, right? Yep. I've watched a lot of people, like when certain things happen, when certain, like you just talked about, my new deal with iHeart. I've watched a lot of people have conversations about that. Yeah. And man, it really makes me realize how much people don't believe in God and hard work.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Because anytime you get to a certain level of success, they think that you had to get there by some nefarious means. They think that you got to be in the Illuminati, or you busting it open on the casting couch. Men and women, by the way. It ain't just women that they think. It ain't just women they think is busting it open on the casting couch. Men and women they think is busting it open on the casting couch. And it just makes me realize how many people don't believe in God and hard work. Because if you believed in God and hard work, you wouldn't look at somebody else and just say, they only got that because they did some bullshit. You would say, man, I've been watching that person for decades now. I've been doing radio for 28 years. Like literally 28 years. Even if you don't count South Carolina, if you've been watching me from the time I started with Wendy, it's been 20 years. You've been watching that person for 20 years. You've literally watched that person grow. You watched them evolve. You watched ups. You watched downs. You watched them go through fire. You watched all of these different things. But the one thing you can't say is that person wasn't consistent and that person wasn't working hard. And then when that person, achieves something, you want to attribute it. You want to give the devil credit for that?
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to give God and hard work any credit whatsoever. So what happens when you achieve a tremendous level of success? Yeah. Should we just say, oh, that person only got that because of Satan? That person only got that because they were busting it open on the casting couch? I don't even think people understand the narratives they create that will eventually come back and bite them in the ass as well. So yes, I give God all praises, and I am only here because God has been guiding me all of these years.
It's so true. I remember one of my early mentors said to me, if you hate rich people, then how do you think you're ever going to be rich? Mm-hmm. And I never hated. I'm not really a hateful kind of person. Sometimes I wish. Like Sierra was here the other week on a podcast. I was like, what do you do, when you have a hater? And she's a woman of faith. She's incredible. I've really come to respect her a lot. And she had such a good line. She's like, I give it up to God. I don't worry about it. But she's like, I'd be keeping receipts though, And yeah. She's like, I'd be keeping some names. And I was like, I love that line. Like I remember, I forgive. I'll remember though. But I think what happens with a lot of us is like, isn't it weird how we're wired from being young? Like sometimes I'll be on a stage in a business thing and I'll say to the audience, blank is the root of all evil. What's the root of all evil? And they'll just respond, money.
Money, yeah.
When did we learn that? It's not actually that in the Bible. It is the love of money is the root of all evil. But like, how are we programmed to think that? And so that's when I start realizing maybe it's not always their fault. Like the people who hate on you with this iHeartMedia deal, I almost, it like hurts my heart a little bit. I'm like, I know right where you are. It's that you still think that money is the root of all evil, and you've never questioned why that programming is in your brain, and you don't know where it came from.
Oh, I know. I mean, I know where it came from.
Where do you think?
It came from being broke. Like when you broke, you're going to be disgruntled. When you're broke, you're going to be upset about that, and you're going to say things like money is the root of all evil. People will say things to justify why they're not in the position that they want to be in. But man, I'm gonna be honest. I know this is gonna sound crazy. I genuinely, truly don't care about money. I care about being happy. I tell folks all the time, man, what is success? Success is you're doing whatever it is that you want to do and it makes you happy.
Yeah.
I know people right now that, are making tens of millions of dollars and they hate their jobs or they hate, what it is that they're doing. So is that actually success? I know people who are in South Carolina right now making $75,000 a year, $100,000 a year, but they got a roof over their head. They got food on the table. They can take a vacation every now and then when they want to, and they are genuinely happy.
Yep.
Success should be rooted in happiness, not in a monetary amount of, like this should just be rooted in, are you happy doing what it is that you're doing? I am happy doing what it is that I'm doing. I love what it is that I do. I love waking up in the morning to go do morning radio. This is literally what I used to pray for and what I used to dream about. When I was in, Charleston, South Carolina at Z93 Jams in 1999, I was praying for times like this. I wanted to be the super jock. You heard the people I named prior, the Tom Joyners, the Doug Bates, like those were the nationally syndicated radio personalities that a whole generation was listening to. I love being in the middle of one of my unanswered prayers.
Oof.
So there's no dollar amount that can make me any more happier than I already have been. I'm in the Radio Hall of Fame. I'm literally in the Radio Hall of Fame. I've been successful and happy, not because of any money, but because I chose to do something and, God allowed me the wherewithal and the skill to navigate my way to that point.
So one of the things that actually brought me back to you online is you had this post about the trades. And you were talking about
the trades?
Yeah, like plumbing, HVAC, and blue collar.
Got you.
And I was like, oh man, I totally agree. And you were basically saying, I think, in so many words, like blue collar jobs are just as important and powerful as white collar jobs.
More important.
There you go. So I want to talk about this with you. Like, what do you think about university versus trade school? What do you think about blue collar versus white collar? What would you say to a lot of my audience is a lot of blue collar people who are working their way up? Like, give me your take.
I think, number one, you should do whatever it is that you're called to do. But I do think that sometimes we love to push people to what we think is the new trendy thing, right? Right now it's AI. Prior to that, it was like, just social media and the internet in general, right? Like you got to learn how to code and all of these different things. Sure. I do agree with that. But man, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You still gonna need somebody to come through this building and install the plumbing. You still gonna need somebody to come through this building and install the HVAC. This building is going to need, electricians, right? Like you're going to need those people with those skill sets. So I think what the future should look like is people who decide they want to go to trade school and then using some of this new technology to make their jobs easier. It's the next generation of millionaires and, tens of millionaires, maybe even billionaires, are going to come from people who know how to merge the two worlds. It's funny. I was having a conversation with one of my guys about this, and they were like, "Why you always be telling people to go to trade school? Trade school. Those are the black jobs that Donald Trump was talking about." I'm like, those are the jobs that pay green. That's not a black job. Like, we are not in this room right now without anybody who understands how to do things with their hands. Like, every single piece of equipment in this room, the lighting, everything, the bathroom I used earlier was because of a blue collar worker. We can't exist without them. They make the world go around. So yeah, I do encourage, a lot of people to go to trade school, because everybody don't necessarily want to go to, a university and get a degree. Like, and I don't have a problem with that either. Some people want to go to trade school and, do that for a couple of years and come home and start making money immediately. I got, friends and family members back home in South Carolina who've been, installing HVAC and, doing electrical work for 30 years. Ain't missed a meal, ain't missing no paycheck. They not complaining about, recessions, nothing. They are making their money. Lawn care services. Like, there is so many, blue collar jobs that people are making six figures on right now.
And you actually, from what I understand, you have an endowment, or you help with education as well in South Carolina.
Yeah,
right?
I have my mother went to South Carolina State University. I have an honorary degree from South Carolina State University. And I started this endowment fund called the Ford Family Scholarship. And salute to, a woman I call another mother of mine. Her name is Nicole Brevard. She was somebody who was instrumental in, me even, starting that scholarship fund at South Carolina State University. And it is for people who want to major in communications, of course, because I'm a media personality, English, because my mother's an English teacher, or anything in the mental health profession. And I'm working on something right now that I think is going to really benefit people as far as like trade school is concerned, because I want to give people incentive, to go to trade school. And a lot of people can't afford trade school either. So it's like, let's help some of those brothers and sisters who want to, go to trade school as well. And I'm called right now to salute a young lady named Jordan. Jordan the Welder is her name on Instagram. The reason I'm saluting her is because she's like a Breakfast Club super listener. Like, she supports us in everything that we do. Like, I do the Black Effect Podcast Festival in Atlanta, every year. I think we're on our third or fourth year, and she always comes to it. But she's a welder, and I just find her fascinating because she lives a great life. She's married, right? And she's a welder, and she makes a great living. Like I said, she comes and supports us at everything that we do, and she's a welder. So it's like, we don't always have to, run to entertainment or athletics, to live a good life.
No, in fact, there's way more people that are plumbers making 100K than podcasters,
and which
is a
them.
Crazy thing to think about.
Yes, and we need them.
Order of magnitude.
Listen, we need them. Like, I hate, man, that's why I always say treat the CEO the same way you treat the custodian.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, in a lot of ways, the custodian is more important or just as important. Could you work in a building that was disgusting?
No, absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you heard me. I was like, I heard a bit of noise back. Like,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you knew that the bathrooms in this building were disgusting, you might not ever come here ever again.
Yeah.
So that's why people like the custodians and stuff are important, because they make our lives so much easier. So we got to constantly find ways to make their lives easier as well.
Oh, it's so true. Like, one of my favorite people, I opened the book with him, is this guy, Wayne Huizinga. I'm really bummed that he died before I got to meet him. But he was
God bless the dead.
Yeah, he was a garbage man. That's how he started. He was a dropout from college. He went to the military. He became a garbage man, driving a truck. Then he figured out, well, maybe I could buy one truck and I could start my little route. And that route turned into waste management, which became a multi-billion-dollar business. And then Blockbuster, that he started and sold before it went sideways, and then owned a bunch of sports teams.
What?
Garbage dude. And so it's like, all around us, I think the problem, like the lie that we were told, is that you have to stay the garbage man when you start as the garbage man. It's like, yes, start cleaning the toilets. That's sick. But then how much easier is it to climb the ladder from the guy who did the cleaning to the next rung, to the next rung, to the next
That's
rung,
right.
if you're competent, and then
That's right.
own the motherfucker.
That's right.
I'm on board.
And by the way, even if you don't want to do that, that's cool too.
Yeah, that's true.
There's parking attendants that I look forward to seeing every day. Cause when I see them, they screaming my name. I scream their name.
yeah.
Like some of them might be singing songs. Like, they might be talking to me about stuff that we was talking about on the air. Those are the people I like to talk to. What do we know? We've been doing.
I do a lot of this.
Yeah, like I like talking to working class people, because I definitely, I still consider myself a working class person. I just do a different line of work. But I used to work at Taco Bell. I did telemarketing. I worked at a clothing store. Me and my now wife used to work at a clothing store in the mall when we was, teenagers. I did all of those things, but you really get to see what's going on in the world when you have conversations with working class people. They're the ones that can help you keep your boots on the ground.
Let's say we got one of them listening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to listen to you, and they've come to the end of this podcast, and you get to send them off. Like, what are you saying to the person who's on their climb, figuring it out? What would be the advice you would give them today? The thought that you would leave them with? The
first thing I would say to them is thank you. I am grateful that you decided to listen to the Codie Sanchez podcast with Charlamagne the God. Thank you. And thank you for, whatever it is that you're doing every day that makes our lives, better. And yeah, I would tell them, and the reason I'm saying thank you is because I would tell them, make sure that they have a attitude of gratitude as well. Because, man, when you wake up every day and you are genuinely grateful for where you are, like you say, God, thank you, man. God, I'm so thankful and grateful to be, number one, just alive, but then number two, to be able to do what it is that I'm currently doing. You will constantly get blessed with more. I think that is what truly makes an individual happy, right? When you have true gratitude for where you are in life, at the moment. Like, you can't wake up every day and hate what it is that you do. If you wake up every day and hate what it is that you do, please change what it is that you do. like you have to. Like, you cannot wake up every day and hate what it is that you do, because you're gonna project that negative energy onto everybody. Like, don't be the garbage man with an attitude, right? Don't be the person working at the fast food restaurant with the attitude. And same goes for us. Like, if I wake up every morning with a negative attitude, I'm gonna get on that radio and I'm gonna project that onto the people. And trust me, I've been that before. I've been in that space where I've been that before, and God had to remind me quick, I can take this away from you. You do know that, right? Like, I could take this away from you in 2 seconds. So you asked for this. You prayed for this. This is what you wanted. This is what you worked hard towards. How dare you come up here every morning and project what you got going on, negatively to the people. That's one of the reasons I started going to therapy. And when I started going to therapy back in 2016, I would literally come on the radio and tell everybody that I'm going to therapy every Friday at 3:00. I started talking to the people about what it was I was dealing with, because I owed that to them. They can't turn on the radio and hear me going off on somebody, or hear me maybe badgering somebody in an interview. I'm like, damn, why is this person doing? Why is he coming like that? It might be entertaining to some. Some might be like, what is up with this dude? I started to go do the work on myself because I wasn't happy with what was going on with me internally. And so me coming on the radio and expressing that, to other people and tell people I'm going to therapy and trying to get a handle on my anxiety and bouts of depression and things like that, that became a whole movement of its own. And that just started with me being honest with my listeners and not wanting to take for granted the blessing that God had gave me, because I know he could take it away from me in a heartbeat. And that was 2016. So that was 6 years in the Breakfast Club. We still here 9 years later. I continue to grow. I continue to evolve. So clearly, I did something right.
Last thing for you, like, what should people be following you on this year? I know you're working on a million things, but like, where should they be? Where are you like, I'm fucking excited. Tune into this, people.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Well, the Breakfast Club is coming to Netflix this year. Yeah. So,
That's sick. So open up your TV.
Open up your TV. Yeah, like right now, if you can go to Netflix right now, type in Breakfast Club, and you'll see it pop up. I think they say the video podcast start on January 26th. So you can set your reminders for that. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people are having conversations about, Netflix, and they're saying Netflix is trying to compete with YouTube. I don't think Netflix is necessarily trying to compete with YouTube. I just think Netflix is doing what all of these, streaming platforms are doing. Let's bring on content that people want to watch, and let's just see if we can, get as many eyeballs over here and have them, spending their time and attention, with us. So I just think, it's dope for the podcasting game, right? To see where podcasting has grown and where it's evolved to where, a premium, network like Netflix, wants to have us on. And man, I just hope to do more of that. Like, I want to like sitting here talking to you, you have a hit podcast, but what else does Codie Sanchez want to do? Codie Sanchez might have a scripted show in mind based off her life or something. Codie Sanchez might want to do documentaries. Those are the things that I'm thinking about with all of these streaming platforms. Netflix has gotten the game in a real way. I think Apple should follow suit. I think Peacock should follow suit. I think Amazon should follow suit and just tap in with us, right? These new media personalities who, have a lot of different content and IP that we can bring to the table. So that's one thing, Breakfast Club on Netflix. I also have a book imprint called Black Privilege Publishing, and 2026 is going to be a huge year for us because we have Arsenio Hall's memoir.
Oh, I fucking love him.
Yeah, which comes out in April. He's been one of my entertainment inspirations forever. I have 4 huge entertainment inspirations. It's Jay-Z, Clarence Avant, a radio personality named Petey Green, God bless the dead, and Arsenio Hall. And so it's like a privilege to be publishing his memoir. So that comes out in March, I believe, but you can pre-order his book now. My man 2 Chainz, who you should actually have on this podcast because his business mind, he is, a very, very astute, businessman. Like one of my, business ventures, which is the Crystal franchises that me and my wife have in South Carolina. I got into him because of 2 Chainz. He has
a Crystal franchise.
Crystal is a burger spot.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so they serve like little sliders. Like, so they're like the down south White Castle.
Oh,
and so, he has a role at Crystal. And my man Lil Duval, I saw him one day, because Duval does this thing in his community called Duval Day. And I saw him with all these Crystal burgers. And I'm like, damn, I ain't see Crystal in a minute. Where you get Crystal from? And he was like, yo, 2 Chainz is, working with them now. So I reached out to Chainz and, my guy Technique, that's 2 Chainz partner. And they plugged me right in with my man, Jonathan Childs, who owns the Crystal franchises. So me and my wife ended up doing 6 of them. Salute to my guy Billy as well. And so we got 2 Chainz book coming out. The Voice in My Head is God. That comes out in April. My co-host Jess Hilarious, on the Breakfast Club, she has a book coming out called Tell Death Do We Parent. It's a co-parenting book. That comes out this year as well. And we have some other ones that we haven't announced yet, so I can't announce them. But those 3 we've already announced, so you can go pre-order those wherever you buy.
Let's do it.
Books now.
Pre-orders are so important. It's like I don't think people realize, like, if you like one, if you like Arsenio, if they like you, if they like Jess, like the best thing, it's such a gift to do a pre-order because all the publishing nonsense you got to get through. So hopefully you guys go buy some of those books.
Pre-orders are important, but I think that they're I'm not gonna say they're a tad bit overrated. I think the publishing company puts a little too much emphasis on them.
Yeah.
Because people buy in the moment. People want to buy like
what
right
about
now.
to hit New York Times? Like the shenanigans I had to go through to try to. I was like, don't buy now. Wait 3 seconds. Only from this spot. It's fucking crazy town.
Yeah.
So my second book, I'm not doing any of that.
I care about selling books more than I care about the list. Because the list is all politics, you know that.
I can't believe they let me on there. I thought for sure, Main Street Millionaire title about boring businesses making money, like
that's what people
want. Yeah, but they don't. I don't think.
I'll drive myself crazy worrying about stuff like that. Seriously, because you just don't. I don't know how it works. Like it's all politics with all of those lists. So I just want people to go out there and buy the books, learn something from the books. Most importantly, because all of those different books serve different purposes. Arsenio Hall's memoir is just for anybody who grew up on Arsenio and wants to see the ins and outs of Hollywood in the 90s and why he made the decisions that he made, because what he was doing was groundbreaking and revolutionary back then. So if you ever woof, 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 you're going to love that book. 2 Chainz is literally The Voice in My Head is God. So it's like a spiritual book that shows you, why he made the moves that he made, from child to, now as an adult. And, Jess' book is about co-parenting. It's literally about how her and her, her first baby's father, have had a healthy co-parenting relationship. So we got a lot of different books for a lot of different people.
Oh, I can't wait to read them.
Absolutely.
Charlamagne the God, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cody.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
We are sitting on a generational wealth creation event. If you're here, this means you're a builder. As we're going through these next 3 days, I want you to know that the American dream starts with you guys by our little Main Street revolution.
And then I just want to give you guys permission to take a leap of faith.
If I knew then what I know now, I would probably do bigger deals.
It's given us an extra layer of security that we never would have had.
I am so excited to introduce you to some ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
We have to really take the time to make a meaningful connection. It's the fact that there is a lack of connection and the person just wants to be seen, heard, and understood.
Thanks for taking the question.
Are there extra things that need to be done when trying to pay off bad debt?
Great question.
I buy businesses so simple, even your grandmother understands them. That's the game.
It's you and me versus the problem. We're going to try to solve this together.
I know how to build trust in a very advanced way.
How does buying a business fit into the vision for your life?
Today, my goal is to teach you some fundamental skills that you can use to accelerate your business.
If you make a promise in the mirror, know that your word is freaking iron to you.
These people on Wall Street, they want to keep the normal people out of the game.
Main Street millionaires are all around this world, and it starts with each and every one of you.
What are you waiting for? Your path to ownership starts now. Get your ticket to join us on Main Street. Join us today. I think you will make way more money if you spend time obsessing on how to grow online. People pay you money, not just when they see you, but when they see that you understand what they want and that you are going to deliver it to them. That's why creators are blowing up everywhere, because they realize that attention is actually the real currency. So I want you to actually use community and attention to get a few people to buy things from you fast, get a few people to be obsessed with you. So how do you build a multi-million-dollar community of people online that you're talking to for your brand that you're proud of, that has a lot of intention to it? First, I would start with... Welcome back to the Big Deal Podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. I am calling this episode How to Build a Billion-Dollar Brand Online, or How to Make Millions with Brand and Social Media. So if you want to figure out how to actually monetize social media and how to get people to care about the things that you do, this episode is going to be for you. I've invested in a lot of businesses over my career, and we've run a VC fund and we've raised lots of millions. And I'm pretty confident about this one idea, that if you can get more time with more users, you win. And if you can get more time with your users, the people who actually want what you're selling, you win. Which is why now I do TikToks on the internet. I went to Georgetown. I have a PhD. I worked at Goldman Sachs, all the fancy things. And, you know, I remember when I told my parents, they were like, have you lost your mind, your self-worth? What are you going to dance on the internet next? You know, they kind of were like, are you wasting private equity and all these things that you're doing today? And I said, no, I think you will make way more money if you spend time obsessing on how to grow online. 40 cents of every dollar venture capitalists give to startups goes to distribution. Distribution, just a fancy way to say eyeballs, just a fancy way to say attention. And so that's why creators are blowing up everywhere, because they realize that attention is actually the real currency. So I want you to actually use community and attention to never be poor again, even though people are going to say other things matter more, like your pricing strategy, what's your go-to-market, what's your total addressable market. All those things sound fancy and they don't matter. Get a few people to buy things from you fast, get a few people to be obsessed with you. That's how you win. Pessimists sound smart. Optimists make money. Sophisticated often sounds good, but simple is what makes you money. There's something called 1,000 True Fans, an incredible essay. I'll link it in the show notes, by Kevin Kelly, talking about if you can get 1,000 people to love your product, then you can make at least $100,000 every year. He did a bunch of mathematical equations showing this. Get 1,000 people to be obsessed with you, you can make at least $100K in perpetuity. But most people get this wrong because it sucks when you first start out online. Like, how many of you guys have dropped a video and nobody paid attention to it? The thing that differentiates attention versus not is going to be brand. And brand is really what led us to be able to go from 0 followers online to 120 million monthly impressions, to 10 million followers, to having a really big company. And eventually taking all of our attention that we got and funneling it to the things that matter, such as our venture fund, such as funneling it to our holding company, such as funneling it to our education business, to our events business. Media for us is a giant ad. This is the attention economy. And the way that we create content is totally changing that. So if you guys are on board with me with that part, with like, okay, first of all, Codie, we believe you that it makes sense to create content online and it'll lead to more dollars if we do it. Then the real question is, how do we get not just attention, but intention? What's the difference between the two? Somebody like Drake, one of the biggest names in the music world, he has all the attention that one could ever have and a lot of clout and trust, compared to, for instance, Rihanna, who you could even say is not as big as Drake in many ways, but is a billionaire because of Fenty and really smart intention she used in her attention. Same thing with Hailey Bieber and Rhode. Same thing with Kim and Kylie and their makeup lines. So when you have attention, you know you won't always have it forever, but the smartest people apply some intention to it, and that is the path to billionaire. So maybe we'll see Drake come up with some big, huge business idea to capitalize on it. What you want is attention, that's top of funnel, that goes to intention, aka purchasing. So I'm liking what you're telling me about, and now I have an intention to go do something. And the way that you get intention, in my opinion, is you don't do content, you do community. Let me tell you what I mean by that. We've taught 5,000 people how to buy a business. They've bought hundreds of millions of dollars worth of businesses. And so I create content that turns other people into evangelists for our community, such as Renan, who used to be a single dad and then bought a company using our process. And now you can go find his YouTube videos online talking about it. You could do this. Another guy named Sean, who went from his high-paying job in tech to buying a profitable small education business. And you can see him creating content about that online. Or Chris, that's bought multiple businesses. So I create a piece of content, a bunch of people come and watch that content, and then they take action and they buy from it. Because people pay you money, not just when they see you, but when they see that you understand what they want and that you are going to deliver it to them. That is when they will actually part with their money or have intent to purchase. So my belief is actually you shouldn't be a networker. You should go attract them instead. Be the attraction as opposed to, kind of the thirsty handout. I think if you can go build something, go create content that people want to watch, then that attracts them to you as opposed to you having to go chase them. So how do you build a multi-million-dollar community of people online that you're talking to for your brand that you're proud of that has a lot of intention to it? Well, there are a couple things that I would start with. First, I would start with find a problem so big that you can solve for your people that it's almost scary. So for us, I'm like, I think the traditional education system is fucked. I think it's wild that we tell young people, when they're 18 years old, that they can't even drink properly because their prefrontal cortex isn't developed. But hey, you should give us $100,000 to go to school, which you don't know what for yet. But also you can never get away from this debt. It's just going to continue to stack until one day you could hopefully pay off to go to an educational institute where you don't actually do anything. You just learn about theoretical ways to do something. I think the education system is broken. And I think young people feel like that too. Tell me in the comments if you feel like that too. And so I'm like, fuck that. Let's teach people to buy and build things for 1/100th of the cost and have them do it live, which is what we do at Contrarian Community in the SMB boardroom. So first, I want you to think about what's a big, huge problem you could solve for people. I think people should have lovely landscaping, and their landscaping right now, their guys are always late. They're always, struggling to actually come on time. They don't do what they say they're going to do. Whatever. You pick your big problem. And then the first thing you do after that is you figure out, from that big problem, what am I actually an expert in that I could go solve it? Do I understand landscaping? Am I a dentist? Or do I understand consumer packaged goods? Do I understand how to buy businesses? Find the thing that you are already uniquely skilled to talk about, build about, etc. Because I think a lot of the problems of why content doesn't hit for people on the internet and why you don't have a trusted brand and why you don't make money on the internet and why nobody's listening to you is because, God, I wish I had the confidence of a 24-year-old life coach. Are you actually an expert in the things that you're talking about, or are you stretching it? And I think the truth of the matter is that most people are talking about stuff online because it's a trend, because they think they should talk about it, not because it's something they're uniquely skilled at. Find the thing that you have unique skill and advantage at. You can either be the expert, aka, I don't know, I've been in private equity and investing for 15 plus years. I've bought a bunch of businesses. I've invested in a bunch of businesses. I don't know a lot about many things, but I know some things about that. So I do believe I'm an expert there. That's one way. Or you can document it. You can say, I don't know anything about buying businesses right now, but I'm going to document my whole process about how I learned. So you either have done it or you document it. Those are the two ways to do it. And then the next level I want you to think about is, I want you to be like this guy, which is, I don't want you to be talking about how big your target market is. I want you to go, yeah, buddy, mine's a lot smaller. I want you to actually niche down. And let me tell you why. There's a reason that Amazon started as a bookstore. There's a reason that when people get big online, it's often because they started in something really, really small and specific. A bad niche is one that is really big when you're starting out because you can't be an expert enough in it. So let's say a bad niche right now might be business for you. A niche of small business is okay. How about just small business owners? Okay, that's better. How about laundromat owners? Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. I want you to try to go as niche as humanly possible because the cool thing about the internet is you got buddies online. If you're into Japanese anime with female protagonists that have fairy tale specifications, there's a Facebook group for that. So the more niche you can go, the more subject matter expertise you can have, and also the cooler takes you can have, and people can become true fans. The way we tell if our content is niche enough is what I call the Where's Waldo strategy. I want you to be specific. I want you to be small. I want you to select a very targeted market. And so I think about, where's Waldo? How can we find this guy in like these crazy images where everything's going down? Well, it's because he's got this red, white striped shirt every time. He's got these blue pants. He's got this kind of crazy beanie. Every single time I know what to look at him because he's very specific, small, and select. And I want you to think about your niche the exact same way. The second thing, once you've nailed your niche, is I want you to think about, so you've got this big problem that you talked about that you want to try to solve for people. Now, how do you turn that problem into a product? How do you monetize it and make money off of it? Well, that's something we call the problem to product loop. Most people see problems and they think about obstacles. They're like, this is in my way. I want you to, every time you see a problem in your niche, instead say, that's the opportunity. And let me show you what I mean by that. When you find a problem, then the first way to turn it into a product is just to make content. I want to buy a business. They talked about a letter of intent. I don't know how to do that. So what do? I create a video and a sample letter of intent. Cool. I got a video and a lead magnet. What about another person might say, I don't know how to talk to sellers. So what do? I create a video and a script about how to talk to business sellers. I don't know what a business is worth. That might be a problem in my sphere. And I say, okay, let's create a deal calculator so that you can calculate it exactly. And then I'll walk through in a video or a Twitter post or a blog exactly how to fix it. Then somebody might say, I don't know how to find businesses for sale. And I would say, oh, well, why don't we create an entire thread in our community for how to find businesses for sale? Maybe turn that into a course. Okay. And what this means is that you will learn something from the doing or the documenting you're doing every day that gives you a hypothesis about something that you should build, that you'll turn into content experiments. Then you have a baseline to measure if it's working or not. Did this thing get views? Did people download it? And then you turn that analysis into a product that you then learn from, then build, then measure, then analyze, then turn into a product. And this feedback loop from your community helps you create products that are better than anybody else's. And let me give you a perfect example. Here's my $1 billion bet, or one of them. We have a company called BizScout. How did I create BizScout, which now has 71,000 business listings? It's like the Zillow for small business acquisition, right? So, you go to buy a house, you go to Zillow, you check out the houses, you select them. I want a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, located in New York. I want it to be under $1 million, whatever. So we do the same thing for business acquisitions. And so that started because people started to say, well, I don't know how to find a business to buy. And I was like, oh, here's some sites. All the sites were bad. So I was like, well, why don't we build that? And now that thing is 25,000 buyer and seller connections have been made. We've got proprietary listings. It's going to be a really big company, I hope, one day. And that all came from a video and a piece of content that started. And so I want you to think about, as you're creating content in your business, which even could be internal. Here's an SOP for how I paint a house. Every time you have a problem, you create a resource and you ask if it's content. Then it will turn into, eventually, if you do this right, something called the marketing infinity loop, which is where you turn your free stuff into your paid stuff. Your paid stuff also becomes your marketing stuff, and it continues to loop around. And so here's how it works. First, you start with awareness. So I create a piece of content, and that content gets views on whatever platform. That's great. That puts you into the consideration cycle, which is like, all right, maybe somebody will consider buying from me. They'll consider using my service. Then finally, they'll move to purchase. So they'll buy something from you online. Then a few of them will move to advocates. That's where they write reviews, testimonials, take surveys. And then until finally they come into your loyalty program, which is where not only they talk about you, but they might subscribe to your newsletter list and also subscribe to a referral program, and then do the thing that is most important, more than anything else, continue to buy from you and tell their friends about you. And you just keep going. So awareness to consideration, to purchase, to advocacy, to loyalty. And as you follow this infinity loop, your little content business turns into a paid ad machine. What would I do if I was you? Start small, find my niche, use my content to build my product and then to market it, and then continue to iterate from feedback. And if you do this again and again and again, you will build an unfair advantage so big that others can't follow you.
So how do you start then? If you're like, all right, I kind of see the path now for how I can make money from content. What is the rule to start getting the number one currency, which is awareness? That rule is, first, you have to have a system. A system is what we teach at the Contrarian boardroom, but having an operating system for how you're going to run your content. Then you have to have a team system. So how is your team going to run your content? And then you got to have an overview system, which is how am I going to see if this stuff is working or not? And you can kind of see right here how we use ours. Once you have that system in place, the next rule is a little bit more fun. And that rule is just don't be fucking boring. The thing about content that'll kill you more than anything else is if your content never gets attention. Then it doesn't matter how good you are at selling people things, nobody's ever watching them. So a couple things that matter. I think every company needs more opportunities for people to fall in love with them. I think that is actually what you want. You want people to hate what you're doing or love what you're doing, but apathy is the thing that you want the least. And so let's take a bad example first. What does a terrible newsletter look like? Well, most newsletters or emails from companies, they look like this, right? It's like, I don't know, extra 20% off flash sale, everything you need to know about crypto. I mean, I'm bored. I would never open either one of these. Instead, I would go back to one of the greatest emails I think that's ever been written. And this was written by Derek Sievers, the head of CD Baby back in the day. And the email's just ridiculous. So let me read it to you. Thank you for your order from CD Baby. It was a CD site for young kids. That's how we used to listen to music before Spotify. We had these big discs and we put them in and we kept them in these floppy folders. Anyway, Derek Sievers had a business that sold CDs. And the email that he had when you got a purchase from his store was so good. Here's how it goes. Your CD has been gently taken from our CD Baby shelves with sterilized, contamination-free gloves and placed onto a satin pillow. A team of 50 employees inspected your CD and polished it to make sure it was in the best possible condition before mailing. Our packing specialist from Japan lit a candle and a hush fell over the crowd as he put your CD into the finest gold-lined box that money can buy. We all had a wonderful celebration afterwards, and the whole party marched down the street to the post office where the entire town of Portland waved bon voyage to your package on its way to you and our private CD Baby jet on this day, Friday, June 6th. I hope you had a wonderful time shopping at CD Baby. We sure did. We're all exhausted, but we can't wait for you to come back. Thank you again. Derek Sievers, President CD Baby, the little store with the best new independent music. It's ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous thank you email. It's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? That this thing got shared tens and tens of millions of times. Now it's gotten a little bit overplayed. Lots of people have copied it. But back in its day, this was really unique. And so what is your version of that today? I want to give you an example. I told my team, because we have a big newsletter business, and it's an incredible newsletter, I think. It's contrarianthinking.co. But in it, we tell people how to make money with businesses, right? And so every single week, it's different business ideas and different ways to grow your business, all focused on money. And I felt like our subject lines were terrible. And your subject line, that's your face card, baby. That's like the first thing you see when you, are going on a blind date and, you have your 1 second to impress somebody. That's your subject line, right? And so they're really important. I could write you a beautiful email, but if my subject line sucks, you're never going to click on it. Then you're never going to buy anything from me. And then I'm going to have to play my tiny violin. And so we weren't getting enough clicks. So I went to my team and I was like, hey, these subject lines are super boring. And so we wrote a newsletter about tree trimming and how a guy made money with tree trimming. And I said, I'll give you $1,000 if you can beat me in my subject line for this, because I think yours are boring. And they said, Cody, we think you're being ridiculous. You're being too hard on us. And I said, fine. If you win and your subject line gets higher clicks than my subject lines, I'll pay you $1,000. I'll be wrong and I'll go fuck off. And they said, great, deal. So we A/B tested the email. And some of the subject lines were like, growing a towering $144,000 tree business. How to grow your $1,000 or $144,000 money tree with a tree, emoji. Proof that money grows on trees. That actually was the top rated one. You want to know what my subject line was? I love guys with wood, ... Which one do you think you got the most clicks? Mine. Now, when they went in there, I had a funny first line that was like,
excuse me, you dirty little rascals. What I mean is I love guys with big wooden trees that make a lot of money. And this thing is all about how people can make money. Not only did that have an incredible subject line, but the responses from the email, like everybody loved it because it was unexpected. It was a little bit of a surprise. So the worst thing that you can do in content is be boring. So I'll tell you, it's not just about your subject line. It's also about design. Like most newsletters look like this. Corporate, standard images, terrible subject line, overly designed. They don't lead with value. They're boring. Like, look at this. It's like a screenshot of, I don't know, their annual publication. It looks like something I'd be pissed if I got in the mail because I feel like they're killing trees for no reason whatsoever. As opposed to this newsletter, which is Publish Press. This is a great newsletter. This is by Colin and Samir, and actually like I think an incredible newsletter overall, but the design is crisp, baby. It's clean. It's got a celebrity up top, easy to grab. It's kind of corporate, but fun feeling. So it doesn't feel like overly designed. It's short. It's bulleted. It's got great subject lines. Or this one by Scott Galloway. This email is incredible. It shows you right away what you're going to get with a great subject line. It also has images that tell you things as opposed to the words. So it's show, don't tell. And then this one, which is mine. My newsletter at Contrarian, every single time we start it with a quote. People love quotes. We have this little like kind of hand-drawn image of each person. So every time you open the subject line, you kind of know what you're looking at. The graphics overall are good. I think some of these subject lines could be better, like a practical framework for thinking bigger. Womp womp. That was boring. You know what? We should tell Jacob about that. Jacob, we got to work on the subject lines. But like 8 lessons from the man who wrote The Laws of Power. Anyway, pretty good. The next is I want you to go Freud on him. And what do I mean by that? I mean that when you're creating content, we're talking to people's psychology, right? We humans are weird. And if we can get into their psychology, we can change actions. So let me give you some examples. So a CTA, a call to action in your content is really important. A lot of times people across platforms, so whether it's a video or it's a newsletter, they'll say things like, subscribe now, join now, sign up. Well, we've heard that so many times that we almost don't hear it anymore. You know what I mean? You go to a site, it says subscribe now. You're like, no, I don't want to. It's almost noise. As opposed to click here for this free X. Check out my list of 150 Y. Explore this value prop. This is telling you like, hey, I'm going to give you something if you give me something, your email. Now, I think there's a cheat code to how to become really great at content. And this is for you 202 level people, the people who are not just doing this by yourself, the people who are ready for the bigger game. So it's not for everybody. You can listen if you're still 101 level, but if you're looking to scale up, there's only one real answer. And that is, it's always a who, not a how. So I just gave you a bunch of hows, but this slide is showing you the number 2s to some of the biggest number 1s on the internet. We've got The Rock. Well, next to him is Danny Garcia, his like manager and agent who helped really create his career in multiple industries. We got Kim Kardashian with the ultimate momager, Kris Kardashian. We've got Nick Bare with his number 2 at his company. We got Mr. Beast with his original number 2. So who, not how. Anytime you want to grow on a platform, the best thing you can do is go find your best who. Because the truth of the matter is you're likely not a content expert, right? I wasn't. And if you're not, you can always hire somebody to do that instead. Now, where I would end is, if you want to build a community with 1,000 true fans and make more money on the internet, the one truth that you'll have to remember over time is this formula, which is consistency plus creativity plus grit to intention. And if you can use that formula continuously, you will find a way to make money online. Tell me if you guys like this episode. It's very tactical. And if you guys want to start a newsletter, we'll give you our tech stack. You can click the lead magnet below. It'll show you where we make newsletters. It'll also show you some of my favorite content tools. And you guys can rock and roll on your own version of a billion-dollar brand. I was just looking, and it looks like more than 50% of you are not subscribed to the Big Deal podcast. When you subscribe, first of all, it means we get to bring you bigger and better guests. It's also the number one way you can support this podcast. If you liked it today, subscribe on whatever channel that you're listening to. And I want to tell you something firsthand. You become
whatever you allow into your attention span. And what I hope you feel from us every single day is that I value your attention and your time more than anything else. I promise to only bring you things that are going to make you more money. They're going to make you more motivated to make your life better. So give me a little solid here. Subscribe to the channel. This is how we grow. Also, leave me a review on what you want better and who you want on. I promise you will do it. Hey, if you're a business owner right now and you like the things you were hearing on this podcast, I have something that I haven't talked about publicly before that's just for you. It's called our SMB Boardroom. This is for small business owners who want to grow. It is for business owners who are on their way to making at least 7 figures a year. If this is you, hit the link down below, talk to our team. This is the place that can be your late night emergency call for the things that go bump in the night in your business. If right now you feel like you're plateauing or you feel like you don't know how to handle your growth, we got you. So click the link below, SMB Boardroom. We just built it for you builders. Kind of obsessed with it. And I think if you are a builder, there's no place you're going to want to be except here. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description.